Hi, welcome to today's 10-minute CEO Secrets interview. Today, I have a very special guest, is George Hodgin. He is the CEO of biopharmaceutical research company. He used to run a company called Udex Software, and here's the big thing. He was a Navy SEAL, served over in Afghanistan. So thank you for your service and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
Tell me a little bit more about biopharmaceutical.
So BRC, or Biopharmaceutical Research Company, exists exclusively to provide federally legal cannabis products to researchers, doctors, and scientists that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. And let me just paint a little picture for you. If you're an American today, you likely live in a state where you, as a consumer, can go to a dispensary and access cannabis. So there's 200 million Americans that fall into that category, unless they're a scientist or a doctor, in which case they cannot violate federal law by going to a dispensary to purchase cannabis products to study, bring into their laboratory, into their university, et cetera. So that we're going through the federal DEA and FDA pathway to be able to provide those doctors and scientists cannabis for their research.
Yeah, when we talked about this the first time, I think 3 or 4 months ago, was in the Farm Bill, there's a rule, a regulation that it has to be tested, your hemp crop, 15 days before harvest. Component, or this is the instrument that you're building on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So under the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp crops, in order to demonstrate that they don't contain over 0.3% THC, have to be tested about 15 days prior to harvest at a DEA-approved laboratory. Now, recently, the USDA has said, look, we're not going to enforce that rule until next year, just because it's so new and is going to take some time for people to get used to. But their thought is, if you don't have your crop tested at a DEA-approved laboratory and it tests hot, then now you're handling a Schedule I drug, and the government has to have the infrastructure set up for someone to do that. So that's where a company like ours, BRC, comes into play.
Now, is this a mobile type handheld device, or what are we talking?
It's not. So we started off, John, as a specialty pharmaceutical manufacturing company to produce federally legal cannabis. As a result of that, we set up our own internal QA/QC laboratory so that we could tell our consumers what we're giving you is in fact exactly what we're telling you we're going to give you. So that lab was approved by the DEA about a year ago to do Schedule I cannabis testing. Then when the USDA came out with this requirement, we sort of looked at each other and went, oh my God, this was not the intent of our business, but it is an ancillary business for us, where we're saying, wow, we can really serve the hemp industry, but it is not a mobile lab. To be a DEA-approved laboratory takes a lot of time and a lot of money, and it looks a lot like Fort Knox here. There's just no gold in it.
Now, if a farmer in Wilcox, Arizona, there's hemp farmers and cannabis. So I do ship it to you, or you have to set up a location in Arizona too?
So the actual sampling depends on the state. So if you're in California, then there are sampling agents out there that can go do the sampling as per the USDA and California requirements, and then bring it to our laboratory where we'll then test it. It is legal to ship it to us, but it depends on the state requirements. So like Washington, New Jersey, Delaware, everyone has different requirements for sampling and who can do the testing.
Why did you start this? I mean, you've gone from, I saw a product manager on your LinkedIn profile, to CEO of a software company. And before that, I mean, MBA, Stanford grad. How did you get to cannabis and being the CEO of a kind of a DEA testing lab?
Yeah, it's a wacky roundabout story. I always think that how you get into cannabis is such a fun story for everybody these days because it's so different. But I was following my service as a Navy SEAL. I got involved in the healthcare of a friend of mine, and I was at the VA with this individual. And this person said, look, I'm going to try cannabis. I'm sick of the way opioids make me feel. Could you please tell me, doctor, where I can get it and what's safe and how I can dose it? And the doctor said, as I'm sort of sitting in the room with this friend, the doctor said, look, I would tell you, the fact is almost everything that we see out there with cannabis is observational or anecdotal at best. There's not really our medical gold standard of rigorous clinical trials and research. And I sort of looked at him and went, wait a minute. So
yeah, this is a roundabout way telling you, I can't recommend this, but
yeah, but wink, wink, it's probably okay, but I don't know how to tell you how to do it. I recognized that there was this growing opportunity and gap between the medical and research community and what they have access to, and consumers, which have access to everything, but scientists don't. So we decided to start the business to go through the DEA process to produce a Schedule I drug for researchers.
I got the why now. That's awesome. Especially you're doing this for the guys coming back. I know some guys coming back. Some of them look great, live happy lives. Some of them, their eyes are glazed over, and is this not the same? And
right.
Thank you. Yeah, for that.
Yeah, my pleasure, and thank you. I think it is incredibly irresponsible of our federal government to send people off to war and to bring them home and not be researching every potential therapeutic that could help them. I'm not here to say cannabis is good for XYZ or this particular individual. It feels very irresponsible to send people to war and at least not research every option to help them when they come home.
So where are you at right now? I mean, in a stage, revenue, pre-revenue, what are you looking at here?
Yeah, so we are a small but focused team in Monterey, California. We're pre-revenue. We are completely ready to go as soon as the final DEA permit comes through, which we think will be relatively soon, that allows us to cultivate and manufacture. So our pharmaceutical SOPs are developed and finished. Our team is here. Our building is built. We are like chomping at the bit to go. I mean, it's literally like we're like a pack of hounds waiting to be unleashed.
I did some work for a lab in Sacramento. Now, all these other testing labs, what happens to them? They're not DEA certified. I mean, do they have to go through a process or what?
Yeah, so I don't know what will happen to non-DEA approved laboratories. What the DEA has been very explicit and objective in telling us is that there are effectively sort of two worlds when it comes to cannabis, and they're pretty mutually exclusive. There's sort of the DEA approved federal realm for USDA hemp testing, controlled substance testing and development. And then there's the state realm, the state medical and adult use realms. They have been very explicit with us. Do not participate in both. Pick one, but don't expect to have a DEA license and participate in the state markets. So,
interesting.
Yeah, I because I think where they're coming from, and these are my words, certainly not theirs. If they authorize you to be a DEA licensee and then participate in the state markets, they're effectively tacitly approving someone of violating federal law, which, as you know, they don't want to do.
Are you trying to raise money?
Yeah, we are. So we're not currently actively seeking investors, but I am always open to strategic partners.
Yeah.
I want to do whatever's best for the business. I know that at some point, our skill set here at BRC, we can probably get to where we want to go quicker and more successfully if we have some sort of strategic partner. I don't know if that means JV, equity investment, et cetera. But we're right now supported by a very patient, focused investor-based angel and high net worth. Like I've learned from some of the stuff you've put out on LinkedIn, it is silly not to always be thinking about the next capital raise as an entrepreneur. So I'm always
you should be able to turn off and turn off the spigot, like what you control, but it should always be there. Yeah,
exactly. That's I love that analogy. It's a great way to put it. As you sort of pointed out, and as I experienced during the first raise, it always takes longer than you think it's going to take. And I love your analogy, like stand in every line. You're really missing opportunities if you aren't talking to every sort of person. So I get out there and talk to people, spend time on the phone so I can do like you say and just sort of open that spigot when we need.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I want to ask you a question. I know a Navy SEAL down here, Eli Crane, you know him.
Bottle breacher.
Yeah, bottle breacher. Nice. I think it's doing $20 million or more now.
I'm jealous.
I asked him a little bit about, a challenge in business, like, how do you overcome that? And he goes, look, my perspective shifted. I was in theater over there, and that is a lot tougher. Buds was a lot tougher than anything I'm doing here. I mean, Well, what about you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Having served in Afghanistan and certainly lost friends and teammates, I think any trepidation or fear or anxiety I have at work, I just remember the guys that I knew that are no longer with us and think, what would they give or what would their families give for them to be able to be in my shoes as an entrepreneur? And that really helps focus me. Not to downplay like the stress of starting a new business, but at the end of the day, I think, look, there's no bullets flying here. There's nobody shooting at us. We can be disciplined and focused. And I haven't, at this point, we're still a startup, and I have not figured out the magic code for how to build this, but I think it's going to be just sort of like you learn as a SEAL, which is you just never quit.
Oh, geez. I'm going to end it there.
Yeah, cool.
Because that's the perfect ending right there. So, George, thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you very much.